Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Which one of us is going to speak first?
Today, our episode, we're just going to dive into a little bit of tea. We've decided we're going to do one-off episodes of just kind of diving into some of the Instagram world, right? There's not a lot of overlap between like YouTube and Instagram, and there's like a human design community on YouTube and a human design community on Facebook and one on Instagram. And so today on this podcast, we are going to talk a little bit about the stuff that's coming up on Instagram.
Yeah, you can think of this as a news segment for human design, drama, and gossip, only that's playing out for everyone to see in the public. Don't be scared if you're somebody who has a close friend story and we're on it, or has a private Instagram. We're not going to be sharing anything that's meant to be kept private. It's just stuff that is public drama, essentially. And,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like over the last couple of years, the human design space on Instagram has become this big thing where there's certain characters, people know each other, people watch what's going on, we all learn from each other. A lot of us are kind of putting our lives out there and perspectives out there for other folks to see. And, we always have to remember that you're never getting the full picture when you're watching somebody's life online. You're getting a very, very tiny fraction. And so I do want to give that disclaimer that any
Mm-hmm.
opinions and perspectives that we share, we're very aware that assumptions are being made and things like that. And there's just never any way to actually know someone fully unless you're very close with them in real life. And even then that's hard to know somebody entirely. So this is really just meant to kind of be fun and to share what's going on in the space and the different perspectives that are floating around. So I want to report it like we'd report the news, but then also, just share what people were saying in the comments section of any posts that are out there. And then we'll, maybe give our own perspectives as well.
Mm-hmm. Or like Switzerland with the sharing. And then, of course, like Teresa said, we're going to have our own perspectives.
Yeah. And there's been some takes, I'm emotional. So what we're going to be talking about today, I would say happened a couple of days ago. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie, I've gone back and forth and this is nothing new. This is a topic that's come up for years now and people chat about it. I would say a good amount of time it will come up in the Instagram space and it always causes some interesting perspectives to be thrown around and it does kind of feel like a battle sometimes, like there's two sides. I'm personal view, so I do transfer to power view, and I notice when stuff like this happens, I'm trying to see through this distorted power view lens at first, and then after my emotional wave settles, I tend to come back to personal view and I can just see things more objectively and just through my own lens versus looking at it from a who's a winner, who's a loser side. So that's been interesting to watch just within my own lens, my own process.
And our own evolution of this, I think this is like the second or third human design coffee talk we ever did was about Pop HD.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we're just coming back to it, revisiting it.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been wanting to do an episode where we talk about things that we believed when we first entered into the experiment or early on in our experiment and how those beliefs have shifted. And I feel like it kind of will just organically come up like it is in this episode. This is a really good opportunity to look at perhaps how our perspectives have shifted in the last couple years compared to the first time we talked about it, because I used to be more on the side of we need to police people when they're giving incorrect information and pop human design can ruin people's lives. And I was very passionate about that and expressed that with a lot of gusto. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
now I would say I have a very different perspective of it. So before we get into the tea, for those who are not familiar or maybe are not in the Instagram land, um, I don't know if it was Brayton Belazzo that started the term pop human design or if Sam Zagar coined that. Do you know? Was it one of
I
them?
I don't know. I know that our human design coffee talk episode 2.5 years ago was with Talus. Who else was on it? Brayton. I don't know. It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd have to go look at video and see who was on it. I'm pretty sure, let's just say Brayton and Sam, or both of them or one of them, coined it. At least from my lens, they were the first people that started talking about or saying it in that way. So
this was years ago.
Years ago.
Years and years ago.
Yeah. So human design blew up on Instagram, I would say in like 2018, 2019. And then just, it was like a snowball that just kept rolling. In 2020, it was starting to really get big on there and get a lot of attention. And I would say on Instagram at first, I was not seeing the nuance and depth that I see now. It was a lot of like, simplifying things, making things seem very positive, uplifting,
light, airy,
yeah. And
easy.
To be quite honest, I mean, I've talked about this before. I took Jenna Zoe's reader training or whatever in 2018 or whenever that was. And because of her I found the system because of her. So I've gone back and forth on that, because as somebody who paid for the course and has gotten a lot, I would say, more depth out of courses that were less expensive, it was challenging for me to be accepting of that for a while. But then I had to really see the big picture of it. And I'm actually grateful for her, because I mean, to be honest, I've come full circle with her. I really didn't like her for a time. And now I actually listen to her podcast sometimes, and I'm like, oh, she has some good takes, Again, not somebody that I would go to learn the foundation of human design from, but has some good takes when she's speaking through her differentiated lens. And that's what this is all about in the first place. So anyways, knowing that I have that perspective of like, I've paid this person money, this person introduced me to the system, and I was pulled in because of the way that they phrase things in that kind of like light surface, airy fairy way. I think a lot of people probably share those sentiments. I know you had a different experience, but just looking at it from the objective perspective of pop human design, or this lighter surface level human design, does capture a lot of people. And although the system is distorted somewhat in that way, it appeals to a mass audience. And I truly think that people will find their way to the depth of the system. However, we almost need to have like this whole pop versus source for people to even differentiate them in the first place.
Absolutely. And I think it's something to be said too, when there's arguments about which is the better way, is to understand a lot of people are coming from a place of seeking and spirituality. And that's another thing, because there was another post about spirituality and human design. Anyway, but it's just really like, I think we all need to look at, like, a lot of people will come from that, like I did, you did, our past with like, we're seeking, we're looking for something. And initially when you're seeking, you want it to be kind of warm and fuzzy to feel safe to dive into,
Right.
And so when you read things that are just affirmations about being a generator, affirmation about being a reflector, it's like, oh, it captures your interest, and then you can dive in from there. You're right. My experience was very different. I had somebody introduce me to human design in person, and then I went home and watched raw videos that night for like 6 hours. So it was very different.
You got just initiated by raw pretty much, like right off the
Right.
bat. Whereas
Well,
I needed something lighter and something gentler, to be honest.
Yes.
Raw is not what I would call gentle.
Well, and it took me like, I couldn't comprehend it for the longest time. And I've said this, I think, on a different episode. It took me like 3 months to understand the difference between gates and channels. Like, it just was not, like, my mind could not compute. So sometimes people need that softer entrance into human design to be able to understand it. Now, there's always been the human design fundamentalists. We talked about who coined the phrase pop HD, but there's always been this trend, even with like first gen students, of fundamentalists, and then people who kind of broke off to make it more digestible for other people. Shaitan Parker, Karen Curry, or
Shaitan Parkin.
Karen Curry Parker. So they like we're looking at first gen students that had that, and they are like just making it easier to digest for some people,
Or
or
even
through
Richard
their
Rudd, who
Richard
went
Rudd.
off and he
Exactly.
was one of
Gene
Ra's
keys.
star students and then went off
Mhm.
and created like his own system that was loosely based on human design
Yeah.
called the
So
gene keys.
a lot of great things have come from people, creating their own synthesis of human design. Human design is a synthesis of other systems to begin with, you know? So human design itself isn't even source.
Ooh, shots fired.
It's a soup.
It is. It is a
It's
soup.
not an ingredient. It's a soup,
Mm-hmm.
made of different ingredients. We're looking at the I Ching, the chakra system, the Kabbalah, I mean, quantum physics. There's so many things in the soup of human design. You can't say that it's a base ingredient. Like there's one that's the one ingredient you have to use to make other soups. It's a soup
Right.
itself.
And I will say, although it is a synthesis, it is a completely unique thing the way it's all put together. The
Absolutely.
synthesis in and of itself is completely
Yes.
unique. And
Yes.
Ra didn't supposedly didn't know anything about these systems
Hmm.
when he had this experience with the voice. And
Hmm.
that to me is what I would say sold me on it. Like this system is so complex, it's so intricate, and he didn't know about these other systems. Maybe he did like loosely on the surface, I don't know, but he claims he didn't know anything. And I mean, even if he did, he would have had to study all of these systems in so much depth for so long to be
Yes.
able
Yes.
to put them together like this without knowing them, you know? So,
Yep.
credit to Ra where credit is due. And human design wouldn't be a thing without these ancient spiritual systems.
Hmm. Hmm. And I don't know if he was still alive. I have a feeling he would just be watching it like play out.
Oh yeah.
He wouldn't be policing it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he would. He would just, you
I
know,
mean, I think you would.
I mean, a little, he'd have things to say
I
about it.
think
He'd
he
have
would.
things to say about it, but I don't think he would just,
He'd
I don't
probably
know.
be really amused. But here's the thing is he
Yeah.
knew this was going to happen. He did say
Yes.
the system is going to be watered down. The system is going to be distorted. I know he's talked about how fourth lines are going to be the ones to carry the system on because we externalize our
Yes.
foundation.
Yes.
Um, and things like that. So, yeah, who knows what he would be like right now if he was still alive. For those that don't know, Rob passed away in 2011. So, he weirdly enough has predicted a lot of the things that are happening now. So I would think he'd have some opinions or some perspectives on what's going
Yeah,
on,
no
but he
doubt.
also knew it would happen and it's inevitable. And so it's okay to be bothered by what's going on and be passionate about your stance and also see that this is completely inevitable.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't think that, I mean, even us sharing is we're what anybody who's sharing human design is watering it down.
Right.
Unless we are legitimately only quoting Ron, then what's the point? You know, like any of us who are sharing our perspectives, we are like homeopathy. You dilute it, it gets stronger, but that's a different thing. But there's just this way of like it's not unless you're reading the black book or the white book
Well, because
only.
even Ross' perspective changed over time.
Exactly.
Because the more you decondition, I mean, of course, Ra's perspective was going to change over time. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
we could argue that the true foundation of human design is the white book or the black book or both of
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly, as he integrated more, as Ra was a 4323. He was a genius to freak. He structured things.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine he had spontaneous awareness going forward after getting the system, and it was going to change over time. There's just no way it couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And his
Mm-hmm.
perspectives changed as he deconditioned. And you can tell if you watch videos of him from when he first started coming onto the scene, versus his later videos, he was an entirely different person.
I mean, we see this with religion. We see how religion is shifted so much when, it's like when people are like, well, Ra says that this, it's like, well, I in my mind, feel like someone is saying, the Bible says this. Well, then let's take it absolutely as it is, you know?
Right.
And
And even, yeah, the Bible has changed. I mean, they added things in like the
right.
1940s.
Everybody's, there's
Everything's
versions
always
of it.
changing. And
Yeah.
the thing
That's
about
all.
Ra too, when you listen to a lot of his lectures, he'll make like one-off comment and then he'll never come back to that. Or
Right.
like he'll say something without context, or
Mm-hmm.
he'll say
Mm-hmm.
something and then 3 lectures later completely contradict what he said before.
Yep.
And so you really do have to take like his, or I would say opinions or his perspectives about life, not when he was just saying things about the system necessarily, but you have to take his perspectives with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like anybody else. He's not a guru. He's not God. There's no human being that is. I mean, for Christ's sake, he would wear hats and shirts that would say, not your guru or whatever.
Right.
He
Right.
didn't want to be seen in that lens, but he was also a fifth line. So
Right.
that was going to happen. And
Right.
we should never be taking what anybody says at complete face value. The only way to know what's true for ourselves is to go validate it and verify
Right.
it. And he encouraged
Right.
everybody to do that in the first place.
Yeah. And I just got distracted by a snowplow. Squirrel moment. Uh, yeah, it'll come back.
It'll come back. So what is the haps? What's been going on? So
Mm-hmm.
to backtrack, this first got started talking about what, 2-3 years ago. I don't know the exact timing, and it caused a ruckus back then. This time around, should we read Sam's post? Because Sam Zagar was the one who initially posted about this. And what I've noticed about Sam, I feel like tends to start trends or starts, she like creates things for people to talk about. It's like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
she'll put something out there, and I have no idea if it's conscious or not, but she'll put something out there and like it creates a lot for us to talk about, which is a fourth line. I love that.
Right.
I'm here for
Right.
it. I'm like, yeah,
Right.
let's give us something to talk about, give us something to disagree on.
Mm-hmm. And just something to dive into. And
Yeah.
where in the comment section, seeing everybody's perspectives and everybody's experiences. And I hope for a world where we can do that, where people aren't fighting each other.
Yeah. But also that's going to happen.
But that's going to happen.
Or maybe
That's
where
happen.
people aren't taking it so personally and feeling like
Yes.
attacked by, because here's the thing is I feel like, and I even watched myself go through this where, no offense to Sam, I was like, why does it even fucking matter? Like, why is she pointing this out? That was just my initial perspective of, and again, I've come full circle with my wave on that, and I can see and appreciate it for what it is and see her differentiated perspective and whatever. I can see it all play out. And also, again, I'm appreciative that she stirs things up so people have something to talk about.
Right. Right. Let me grab the post. It's a long post.
Do you want to just read like the titles of each slide?
Yeah. So the main post it says, can you tell if it's pop human design? And then it might be pop human design if they're claiming to have channeled or downloaded like Ra did. It might be pop human design if they're changing the words to something that resonates. It might be pop human design if they're charging twice as much for less than half the quality. It might be pop human design if it uses the words flow, alignment, and energy interchangeably. It might be pop human design if they're teaching you a strategic formula that worked for them. It might be pop human design if they're telling you that manifesting generators are their own aura type. It might be pop human design if they're trying to teach you that anyone can manifest. It might be pop human design if they change the name of the authorities' types or profiles. It might be pop human design if they never seem to go below the surface of the body graph.
Here's the thing. she has some really good points.
Absolutely.
And she's very specific with her words. She said it might be.
Yeah.
She's not saying definitively anybody who does this is pop human design. She's just giving, and this is, I think, something Sam is really good at, is being very strategic with her words.
Quad left,
Yeah,
2644.
exactly. She's
Absolutely.
great at marketing this
Absolutely.
system. She's great at asking questions, at giving people things to think about. And so I feel like when you are looking at this through, and I'm actually really glad that you just read it out loud for some reason, like you reading it and hearing it come out of your voice, it landed differently in my body than like reading it on the screen the first day when I read it. And that also, I think, is a really cool thing for me to witness with my emotional wave too. And just I'm acoustic and I like to hear things. I just take things in better when it's out loud, read out loud.
Yeah.
And it just landed so much softer when you read it than I was reading it in my own head on the screen. And I feel like the way that you read it was almost the way she would have said it, like if we were in person together, just more casual and just, it might be, you know, just. And I think what ruffles people's feathers is even this phrase pop human design, even that in and of itself is triggering for people.
Yes.
But again, we have to be able to differentiate stuff that people have, like things that is people's own personal perspective through what they're seeing the system as. And we're not saying it's wrong. That could be somebody's lived experience that they have uniquely experienced and they want to share it. Right. And I think from a space of integrity, I would think what Sam is trying to communicate is just how things can be watered down and how there might be people out there taking advantage of you. That's the way I would like to be receiving this message. And there's more to the story because there's lots of other perspectives. That's just mine right now.
To me, what stuck out right away is it's a very power stance to have on something.
It is kind of implying that there's something that's better and something that's worse. Right. Just having these two categories of pop human design or source human design. And I think that that is part of what I don't love about having these two terms. Again, they exist. It's fine. It is what it is. But for me, it's almost become an insult to be labeled as pop human design. And just like how we label our not self as bad or shameful, you know, there's so many things that I think the human mind just gets very black and white about and says, oh, pop human design, that's bad. Whereas I kind of like being able to say to my clients, for example, you know, you're going to come across people that have a lighter kind of like surface level way of expressing this system. And that might be of value to you at times. I know it was to me for a period, you know? And then there's going to be people that you're ready to deliver the information with a lot more depth from, and you'll be ready to receive that. And just be aware that there's, you know, different degrees here available to you.
Right. Also, piggybacking off of that, somebody could see this post and have resonated with another person that was, you know, obviously if this post came across, it's on their fractal XYZ, but it could be throwing them into things that they're not ready for, and turn them away from human design.
Yeah, totally.
You know, they'll be like, oh, I only need to follow this. I just need to go listen to Raw. And then they're like, oh, fuck that.
I can't take Raw in.
What?
Right.
I can't take Raw in. This doesn't make any sense to me. And then they go seek somebody who they can help Raw make sense to them. And then what I don't like about that is it's almost this feeling like, I'm not saying this about any specific person or analyst, reader, anything, but it's just like, oh, I can help you with this. It's like you're like positioning yourself as like as a guru of human design to help them understand Raw, when other people can like come across Pop HD stuff and kind of digest it on their own.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
Also can be said they can look at Pop HD, quote unquote, Pop HD people as their guru, you know, the same way, but it could go either way.
Yeah. And I think just because I am sensitive to how other people feel and other people's emotions and that kind of thing, I don't want anybody to feel shameful for who they like to take in. You know,
Yeah.
I even I'm not gonna lie. When I first started listening to Jenna Zoe's podcast, randomly I had a response for it a couple months ago. I was like, oh my God, I can never tell my friends I'm listening to this and liking it. I could never share this on social media. Right. There was a voice inside that was like, this is
Mhm.
embarrassing that you like this. And that shouldn't be the case. I feel like we should be able to take in somebody's frequency and discern for ourselves whether or not we like what they're saying and what they're landing, or whether it's landing in our bodies. And it's IG is an opportunity, and podcasts, whatever, it's an opportunity to practice discernment for yourself, take in the frequency of something and ask yourself, how does this feel in my body and how does this
Mhm.
land? And
Mhm.
that's something that I was noticing with Jenna Zoe. Like, it didn't even so much matter what she was saying, just for whatever reason, I probably listened to it for a month or something. I go through phases with things. And I remember saying to you, Brandy, I just feel hopeful when I listen to her and I feel really calm in my body. And for whatever reason, I needed that during that month.
Yeah.
Again, I wouldn't necessarily say she's like an expert of the system, or I don't even know what that would qualify somebody as
Right.
these days,
Right.
right? Because it's just like people are living their lives and sharing from their perspectives through this lens. But I yeah, I feel like it's a good opportunity for discernment.
Well, yeah, let's look at it through the lens of the nervous system.
Yeah.
We're dealing with like worldwide nervous system dysregulation. Everybody's has an awareness of it. If they don't, they're going to. Um, and what you have the capacity to hold in that, you know, Jenna Zoe, for you at that time, you had the capacity to take that in.
Right.
Raw can be very dismantling
Harsh,
to to the nervous system,
cutting, shocking.
sharp,
Yeah.
um, not feeling super safe and held and secure. And if somebody's already in a dysregulated state, just from life, trauma, childhood, etc., taking raw in would be very difficult.
Yeah.
That's probably why, honestly, it took me like 3 months to just really like, what the fuck is this? And then you know what I did? Once I had this basic understanding of design, I reached out to Sam Zagar and had a reading. I came across her on Instagram back when she was posting lighter things,
Yeah, because that's what you needed at the time.
softer. It was softer. And I was like, oh, and she felt safe to me to get a reading from. I was like,
Hmm.
this person isn't going to blow my mind or my brains out like Raw does.
Yeah.
So she felt safe and good to me because of the way that she was posting her content back then. And I really resonated with her, the way that she was transmitting human design.
Yeah. And, I remember like Jenna Zoe was the first person I heard it from. And then I think I found Erin Claire Jones. I got like a written reading from Erin Claire Jones.
Hmm.
And then I downloaded one of Ra's audios about generators and I think about emotional authority. And I kid you not, I listened to the one about generators. I was like, I have no fucking idea what this man is saying. It was
Right.
like he was speaking a
Right.
different language to me. I could not take it in. And I needed Jenna Zoe at that time. I needed Erin Claire Jones. Um, I Now I listen to Ra and he like quenches some sort of thirst in me.
Absolutely.
There's just
Yeah.
something really incredible about listening to his frequency. I have to be in the mood to listen to him, but when I am and I can take it in, it makes sense to me. Like he makes sense to me, and his frequency isn't jarring to me like it was before.
Um,
What were you
oh,
gonna
I
say?
don't, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay. I was gonna say I also wanted to talk about what you were saying about the nervous system and how on either side of the coin, whether or not Sam's post triggered you because you like pop human design or you just don't think it should be split into categories or for whatever reason, or it triggers you or pop human design triggers you and you think it's blasphemy, just noticing what that feels like to be uh what's the word I'm looking for? To be activated
Yeah.
in your system and maybe asking yourself, why does this activate me so much? Because I
Yes.
remember I do parts work, and in parts work, you basically notice different aspects of self and kind of separate them and see what voice is speaking and what voice might be activated by something or what character within you. And I've done some parts work around this, not recently, but when this was a conversation initially in the space. And I was very activated on the side of like, screw pop human design. This is blasphemy.
Yes.
And there's a part of me that really likes to stand up for people who feel like they don't have a voice, or stand up for what's correct or what's right, and wants to be
Yes.
seen as a good person, and wants to be seen as like superior and even elitist.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do work with this part of myself. Why was this part of myself so activated that other people are maybe distorting things or sharing a different perspective that I perhaps didn't agree with?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to get on a pedestal here about accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that it needs to be brought up. Nobody ever brings it up. Everybody's on one end, fundamentalist. We'll just say source, human design, and we have pop HD. There's not a lot of accessibility to source information if people don't know people. If you
Yeah.
don't have a network, if you don't have if you don't have access, I mean, you can go get human design books, you can order them, Human Design America, Jovian, but I think I might get burned at the stake for this, that if you're preaching to people that they need to be following source material, you need to be giving them access to source material straight from source material, not
Mm.
a class on your take on source material.
Hot take. Hot take.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see your point there. It's almost like I don't know why I'm using the Bible reference. I swear I'm not religious, but it'd be
Yep.
like saying, take my class on the Bible to know what it's really about instead of just reading the Bible for yourself.
Right. Give them a Bible.
Okay.
Send
Yeah.
send them the mega folder.
The mega
Post it in
folder.
post it in your link in bio.
Is there any legal repercussions? I don't know how these things work. The mega folder feels like this elephant in the room when it comes
Uh-huh.
to,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
mega folder is a conglomeration of files. I think people are afraid it's going to get taken away or something if we talk
Yeah.
about it, which I don't know. It could. I don't know. I don't want to put that in jeopardy, but we're just a little podcast, so maybe maybe
Or
the
if you have somebody that reaches out to you, you have a generator that's like, I want some source material, you give them references to the human design books, and they're like, oh, what about lectures? What about this generator lecture? And if you are an HD person and you have access to that lecture, email it to them.
yeah.
You don't have to give them the whole thing, the whole shebang. Email them that lecture. Don't make them take a class on how to be a generator per source material. Teresa and I teach generator classes. In no way do we say this is source material classes. This you need to take. No, you know why you want to take our classes? We haven't offered one in a while and we don't have one coming up, so we're not promoting it. But you know why you want to take our classes? Because we're fucking awesome. And we love being generators and we love seeing generators be generators. That's why. And if somebody messages me and wants a generator lecture, I will send it to them. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the best person to follow? I'm like, here's this lecture. Go
Okay, so
listen to that.
what's the argument against this that I've heard is that human design has a barrier to entry and that it is elitist in nature.
Yes.
And if basically saying like you have to pay to play and
Right.
you won't, an argument I've heard is like you won't be able to take in the information if you haven't paid for it. Or respectfully, that Jovian Archive is a business. This is Ra's work. And although Ra's
Absolutely.
passed away, his work should still be monetized, and it was his work. It took a lot of manpower to create those things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that his children or whoever inherited his business should benefit from his legacy.
Right. And then if people aren't directing people to Jovian or some or a like entity,
Mhm.
they're offering a class or a workshop so that they can monetize on it.
Yeah.
Oof.
I mean, here's the thing. I can see it from both lens.
Oh, absolutely.
I do think that
Absolutely.
Ra's work is incredibly valuable, and it took a lot of manpower to create that, and that there should be some sort of exchange. And at the same time, I've had the mega folder for majority of my experiment, and I've benefited a lot from that being
Mm-hmm.
passed along.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Well, I'm saying specifically in the argument of like, you need to learn source material,
yeah, yeah, okay. Okay.
learn it from me.
Yeah.
Oh, no, no. Go to the source.
See if you can take it in.
See if you can take it in. Or understanding that, like putting, you know, marking yourself as somebody who, like, I pretty much only take in source material myself. But it would be like me marketing a class because I only take in source material. You should learn from me because I'm only going to teach you source material, and not having a way to offer accessibility for people that can't afford to take your class, but they could totally afford to purchase a Jovian lecture for like $20, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like, are we creating pathways for people to have access, even if they can't access the person that is promoting their thing?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Because I have not seen many people, and I know some people don't like Jovian, and some people don't like the idea. This, they'll rant about how they're monetizing it and gatekeeping it, behind paywalls, and then they're doing the same thing. But I also understand people need to live, and that's
People
what
need to
they
make
love to
money.
do, and they need
Yeah.
to make money because money's real and it's good, and that there's nothing bad with wanting to make money.
And
But
there are certain people that really do have a gift for transmitting
absolutely, Sam
Ra's
is one of
material.
them.
Yes.
Sam is
And
one of them.
100%. And so I don't want this to come across as like that's inherently bad to do that. I think that's amazing. I think we need people out there that are giving a modernized voice to
Yes.
Ra's work and
Yes.
transmitting it in their own way. And
And she's doing
somebody
that,
might resonate with Sam and not resonate with Ra.
right. She's doing that for free on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And we can even drop that in our show notes. Like, she's doing that for free on YouTube. And I believe that she had a post about this recently about her doing that because she's like, then the corporations can pay instead of the individual.
Yeah, which is
Absolutely.
admirable.
That's
Super
fucking
admirable.
wonderful. You
Yeah.
know, this wasn't speaking, my frustration with accessibility was not speaking directly towards
Oh, no,
Sam.
no.
It was just saying, like, if you're going to preach about source material, make sure that people have access to it, even if it's not through you, or let
Yeah,
them
it's a
know
good
how they
point.
can access it. Because you don't see many people saying, do you know you can go to jovianarchive.com and buy lectures? You don't,
Yeah.
I don't ever actually think I've seen that on Instagram by anybody except for, I don't even know if Jovian Archive has an Instagram.
I know
Yeah,
HDS does.
IHDS does. Yeah. Promoting them. They have classes, the foundational courses. If
Mm-hmm.
you're interested in foundational courses, we highly recommend Human Design Collective.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I think we should get to the
Mhm.
comment section
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
this is something, again, we're just here to share all these different perspectives. You know how Brandy and I feel at this point. Um, Again, I want to give props to Sam for her ability to transmit this system and her ability to market it.
Yep.
Amazing. And yeah, I don't want people to think I'm like falling on one side or the other. I think I have more of a everything that is worth talking about is usually in the gray area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is not a black and white thing. So, all right, let's go to the comments.
Okay.
Should we start with Kip's
Comments.
comment?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Let's start with Kip's.
So if y'all don't know Kip Winsett.
He is a 4/6 self-projected projector, post Chiron. And we've actually had him on Human Design Coffee Talk before. You can find that on Instagram at Human Design Coffee Talk. Where is Kips? Right now, just to moderate, we're just scrolling through the comments trying to find Kips.
Yeah, where'd he go? Hope it didn't get deleted.
It might have been hidden by Instagram because he mentioned, no, I think it might have gotten deleted.
Oh no.
Or was he responding to somebody? Is it a
Maybe that
reply?
got deleted.
Oh, Kip's comment was so good.
I think he was responding to somebody. Okay, well, I guess we can't share Kip's comment, but he basically was just saying, he's been studying the system for 20 something years and he studied with Shaitan Parkin. If you guys don't know, the whole manifesting generator as a separate type was something that I believe Shaitan Parkin started because, at least in my studies, his was the earliest book to do that. I've gone back and forth with whether or not I think MGs deserve their
aura
own
type is what.
Yeah, but
specifically the post says aura type. And
yes, which I don't know. I have Shaitan's book. I don't know that he calls it a separate aura type. I think he just created its own section when he's going through the aura types. So take that for what you will.
I feel like Power View Press grabbed that and put Kip's comment and put it
I
in
know.
there.
I don't think I screenshotted it though. Okay. Too bad, so sad. But anyways,
he said he was basically like, I studied it the same way as like everybody else on a bunch of acid. Like the same way it came in.
Yeah. Same way it came in. So I mean, when we look at it through that lens, okay, again, all due respect to Ra and this incredible complex system that he's created.
And I love psychedelics.
When you're on a bunch of acid, the lines of reality tend to blur.
Right. And you can get a lot of amazing information.
Yeah, you have to be in that blurred space to learn this mystical information.
Yes. Yeah.
But just take that for what you will. Everybody was doing a lot of acid back then.
Right.
I love how Carlos Sophie's commented, not gonna lie, I brought my popcorn to settle in with the comment section. It did not disappoint.
Yep.
Should we read Brayton's comment, which is pinned to the top?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So Brayton says, to whom it shall concern, source material doesn't care if you agree with it. Source material doesn't care if you resonate with it. Source frequency cannot resonate with the not self. Resistance to source material is simply not self reactivity. When the internet goes out and source material is stored in right beings, there is only going to be actual human design as intended. All the false derivatives, embellishments, and knockoffs created by profiteer charlatans, hypocrites, and cowards will cease to exist. This knowledge isn't even for this generation, which is why I'll continue to preserve it and carry it to future generations. Most people have no idea what this knowledge exists for, and it is entertaining to watch the mental chatter about it. It's the absolute of the Maya, Ra Uruhu. The knowledge is not a suggestion, it is an absolute. And let's see, anybody comment on it? Not Self Cody commented, it's an absolute because Ra said it. Interesting. And then Not Self Cody also commented, if you've read the White Book or Black Book, then you know the entire premise of human design is the quantum mechanics of the design and personality structures combined, all based on juxtaposition unified theory. This was the beginning of quote unquote base, which is a theory of 5-dimensional relationality to the universe. That our form and consciousness move across time and space as an aspect of 5-dimensional geometries. Ra was a quantum mechanics theorist and then used other cultures' mystical systems and teachings to substantiate his claims. We are all pop HD, my dudes. Source material is pop Kabbalah, pop astrology, etc., etc. Please use your authority to discern content and please continue translating your own experiences, even if they're pop HD.
Which is kind of what I touched on at the beginning of this podcast. It is kind of all like it's all kind of pop HD. It's just HD is a soup,
It is, yeah.
you know? It's a soup
Mm-hmm.
and there's many ingredients.
Interesting. So Caroline Renwert commented, I don't really understand all of these judgments and bickering in the HD world. Sure, they are some people who really don't know what they're talking about and are spreading misinformation, but like in every industry, I'm observing a lot of pointing fingers as soon as someone is not using the perfect terminology or is explaining some aspects in a different way. But why wasting energy and pointing fingers at them? I get it. Changing the words is definitely less impactful. I've experienced this myself, but some of these pop HD people, as you call them, are bringing very good things into the world as well. Not all of them are bad or even wrong and have good intentions. I love your content. I've learned so much from you. I'm just surprised and bit disappointed about this post. I was reading some comments and the vibe is a bit like we are better than them because we are purists.
Mm.
And then LAX of the Clarion commented on that and said, I couldn't agree more. I have zero desire to criticize what anyone else is out there doing in the world, and I don't need to inflate my own knowledge credentials by putting down someone else's. I have zero desire to police the HD community, and a lot of these comments seem full of bitterness and frustration, anger, and disappointment to me.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Interesting. I saw a comment I wanted to share. It was Allison's to speak through, but I lost it as I was scrolling them.
Oh, here's one that might apply to us. Ashley Lynn Perry, as an MG and a 2034 at that, it drives me crazy when Pop HD teaches that MGs need to inform. Nope, absolutely not. We aren't manifestors. Not as a pure MG, I can manifest, but only a response. I do make some people mad by calling myself splenic sacral from the Black Book and other earlier teachings. You are the first projector that I feel truly embodies being a projector and an HD guide.
Mm-hmm.
Sam said, I remember the first time I talked about splenic generators and how people went bonkers. If they're mad about splenic sacral, they just don't know enough to know you're referring to your spleen sacral channel. They think you're reinventing your authority, which is true.
Yeah.
I've had a similar experience talking about that because you're a splenic sacral generator.
Yep.
And that was the original teaching. I don't know why IHDS changed it, but they did somewhere along the way. It used to be a teaching that you were kind of your own category of generator, just like emotional generator is its own thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, I feel that. I don't resonate with non-splenic generators like I do splenic generators. Like with a direct connection, it's very different. It's very different. Allison, the speak through says, I'm curious on the big picture need to police how people experience their experiment. Do it the pop way, do it the source way, do it the not self way, do it the energetically integral way, do it all the ways. The system at its core is actualized through self-validation, so only our authority can discern what is and is not valid for us. Why are we policing others?
But then one could argue that you're living your design by policing others.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
That's kind of where I come back to of like, it's all good. It's all all fine. It's all just everyone playing out their roles.
Yeah.
Lara human design. Hi Sam, I was going to read back some reactions, wanted to educate myself, but I'm missing a lot of them. Did you erase them? And Sam wrote, I erased some. Yes, my page is not a democracy. If someone is being disrespectful, I don't need to give them attention or a podium. If someone has something rude to say, I welcome them to say it on their own page. She has a great point there.
Yeah. I still want to know where.
Here's the thing. Your page is your page and you can delete whatever you want. You can block whoever you want. It's your home, basically. It's your own turf. So you are free to do whatever you want on your own page.
Oh, this is a good comment. Truth in the now. My Pop HD radar fires when I see or hear comments like generator types are here to respond to what lights them up. As somebody with a 360 defined, it really pisses me off because it is so misleading, and yet I see that message everywhere. When someone with a 360 defined responds with a yes, they are saying that they are available to have difficulty in a mutation. They are saying yes to difficulty in the beginning of that mutative process and to being a freak. There are no promises that saying yes in response to a mutative experience is going to light them up or that the mutation is even going to work. All it is indicating is that this particular experience is correct for them, which is also why people need to know about format channels.
Yeah. Boom.
You know, there's so much nuance to it, which is why if you're going to speak about human design, having the education behind it, I like speak on a big platform. I'm not talking to just sharing your own personal experiences. I'm saying those big platforms.
Yeah.
You have to understand nuances like that,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
And I will say, like, something that I have heard Brayton say, like, love him or hate him, Brayton is a pretty prominent figure in the space as of now. And he has talked about how, projector empowerment hasn't really been a thing for a while. Ra had projector empowerment classes, but obviously Ra passed away and there was a need for that. And Ra and Brayton has his own flavor of empowering
Mm-hmm.
projectors, and if you're somebody that resonates to him or is feels pulled to him, your authority is a yes to him, you're going to get that flavor of projector empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I've had several friends go through his classes and have said they came out feeling more empowered to be a projector and looking at the world through a different lens. And that is not absolutely necessary in order to live out your type as a projector, and not
Right.
everybody is going to need to take those kinds of classes to be a projector.
Right. My husband's like one of the best projectors I've ever met, and he's never taken a human design class in his life.
Right. What's really intriguing about your husband, Andy, is he's in the corporate world. And
Yeah.
that's where, like, no offense to projectors in the human design space. Obviously, that is very needed. And projectors that are guiding with the system, very important. However, where I personally get curious is seeing projectors guide in these corporate settings, in
Mm-hmm.
the quote unquote real world, and not just in a space where everybody knows your chart and everybody can see your chart and can, like, give you either fake or
Mm-hmm.
real recognition based on your
Mm-hmm.
chart.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, there's kind of an automatic respect which is kind of unique to the human design space. When people see a certain chart, there's almost like this respect to the person, which
Mm-hmm.
you still have to earn that,
Yep.
which I think is interesting how it's so freely given out. But I digress. Andy, watching him over the last couple of years navigate his work, and or the way that he guides, the way that he gets recognized, the way that he's gotten promoted, and seeing him just be a projector and live like a projector while working a corporate job is really inspiring.
Yeah, we'll have to invite him on sometime.
We will. Yeah. I don't want to talk too much about him without him here, other than to praise him.
He's just really good at
I
being a
know, because
projector.
you have
He's
to, like,
really
feel
good.
his frequency to know
And
what we're talking about.
he was even before I knew anything about human design. Like looking back, I'm like, oh, he's always, he didn't he was acting as a generator more before as far as like family dynamics when people would ask things of him, but always in work, he's just like full projector mode.
Yeah.
And now it's just all the time. I don't even have to like remind him of anything or say anything. He's just existing as a projector.
Hmm. I'm just seeing
Hmm.
if there's any other good comments.
I really wish we had Kip's comment.
It was so good. Oh, Christina Person Official said, this post has inspired me to prioritize my education. It triggered me at first, not gonna lie. Hey, there we go. Some honesty there. I literally came back to it 15 times to read comments and thought about it all day yesterday. See, this post has had an impact on people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pop HD has been helpful in introducing me to this wisdom and made it feel a little less intimidating and practical before I decided to begin my own education. And that was exactly what happened to me. I'd love to
Mm-hmm.
see more of this wisdom being taught in the public in a more digestible way. But moral of the story, I feel inspired and kicked in the butt to slow my roll and remember to remain a student. Thanks for this.
Mm-hmm.
See, all kinds of different perspectives here.
Someone's talking about the like keynotes being changed, and I agree with that because like I said in the beginning, I'm a source junkie, but some of those keynotes you can't take them in
Yeah.
until you can. Because some of the words are just not kind. What is it? Is it 18.2? That's terminal illness. What the
Mm-hmm.
fuck kind of keynote? Somebody might pull that up as their conscious son and be like, "Hey,"
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
like, "My conscious son keynote is terminal illness."
I
What?
know. But it's like once I've known somebody with that
Yes,
and
yes.
it's it's not what it seems,
It's
right? It
not.
Raw
Yeah.
had a shocking way. And here's to this point. I know Brayton had said in his comment, like source material is not for the not self or the not self can't take it in. But then Raw himself has also said the Ray Ching was written for the not self. So
Yes.
I'm kind of like, where do we land there?
Mm-hmm.
Because supposedly all of this information, like Raw knew that everybody who was taking in this information would be like the not self would be taking it in. And I do want to say, we're all fucking not self and true
Duh.
self. Like
Yep.
the not self is not something to, this is my stance, my own personal opinion. The not self is not something to be ashamed of or run away from or not talk about
Or
or
try to
try
fix.
to fix. It's just something that we watch playing out. And the awareness of it does change our relationship with it over time. But I feel like Rod chose his words very carefully or the voice or whatever not self is supposed to be very objective. It's just not self. It's not doesn't mean bad self.
Right.
And
Boom.
with all of the conditioning that we've all experienced, I don't know that any of us will truly ever experience 100% of our true self. I
Right.
wasn't raised as my true self. You know, no offense to my parents. They did the best they could, right? And they did a lot of things really good and right.
Yeah.
But it's not their fault. It's not anybody's fault who lives in this reality. We're all conditioned by the program.
And it's not like the goal isn't to be the not self, it's to be able to witness it. And if you can't
Exactly.
witness and have awareness around the not self, then you're really not in your experiment.
What the
And
fuck is the point
if you
then?
can't admit that you're ever in not self, you're not in your human design experiment.
Because you can't escape it.
Nope.
And you can't escape conditioning. Not all conditioning is bad. There, I would say there's healthy conditioning and unhealthy conditioning. But the
Mm-hmm.
only way you know what's what is by being in your body and being in your experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
I feel like that's yep.
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 To throw in just a little bit of controversy here.
Mm.
So I don't know if y'all are familiar with Power View Press. Power View Press is like the gossip girl of human design on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's one person or a group of people. It's anonymous.
We're trying to get Power View Press on the podcast with a voice changer and probably have to like set up a fake email or so we don't know what time zone or whatever, have them choose the time so we don't know where they are in the world.
Not have their camera not turned on and a voice
Yep.
modulator. So it'll be like having Banksy on or something.
Wouldn't that be I've
But
actually been
I have a
discussing it with
feeling,
them.
I know, and I have a feeling it might be more than one person. Like it might be a collaborative thing. I don't
Mm.
know. Maybe I'm totally wrong on that one.
Mm.
I know they've said in some of their comments that their account is a 5-1 manifester.
Mm.
So not necessarily the person running it, but that the
Mm.
page itself is a 5-1
I
manifester.
still think the person running it is a manifester.
I don't know. I don't know. I
Mm.
don't know anymore.
Mm.
I go back and forth. It's like when I was watching Gossip Girl. I was like, I know exactly who Gossip Girl is, and then I don't know. Um, so anyways, Power View Press posts some hot takes. They are
Mhm.
Power View, obviously. And so they kind of keep track of what's quote unquote up and what's down. And the way that I read their stuff is, yeah, it's kind of from like a cheeky, humorous
Mhm.
perspective. They definitely make fun of people.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's kind of like the way I read it is it's light and it's all in good fun and it's meant to be funny. We have to be able to laugh at ourselves. If we can't laugh at ourselves, again, what's the point to awareness if we can't have a
Mhm.
sense of humor about like how
Mhm.
silly we all are? Um, so this is coming through a Power View lens, right? Of commenting on this whole situation. People are fighting about Pop HD, but fail to see the fight itself as the perfect marketing tool. When people are afraid of studying HD the quote unquote wrong way, they are more likely to want to buy from the person telling them they know the quote unquote correct way to study it. Studying human design doesn't necessarily indicate that you are experimenting with it.
Mm.
Interesting take.
Mhm. I love how neutral you are. You're like, that's interesting. Hmm.
Here's the thing. This is because I'm in a place of clarity right now. When I was
Mhm.
not in a place of clarity, I was like all over the place with this. I did not. This is how my adrenalized wave is in a distorted Power View lens. I'm just like, I'm glad I'm in a place of clarity because I feel like neutrality. Again, I have my own perspective of this, but I feel like once you've really been in your experiment for a bit and you're watching mechanics play out, like you can't really make anybody wrong, quote
Right.
unquote, when you're coming from that space of
Because
integrity.
it's not personal. And that,
No.
like you said, right. And like closer to the beginning of this podcast, you were like, the thing is, people are taking this personally.
Yes.
And like that's rule number one of Human Design Club. Don't take
Don't take
anything
it
personal.
personally. Although we're humans and we can't
We're
help it.
humans and we're gonna do it. But it's just like remembering, like popping out and witnessing, oh, I'm taking that personally.
Yes.
It's not personal.
Exactly. So I want to also give a shout out to her handle is by versification
Mm-hmm.
and her name is Sherry. She's a they, them, she, her, just want to put it out there. They are a pure generator 4/6 splenic sacral. And I saw a take in their story that I wanted to read because this is really, I feel like when I read this, I'm like, okay, this is really
Mm-hmm.
kind of where I stand. Like, this
Yeah.
is the take I've seen that I agree with the most so far.
Yeah. When you sent me that, I was like, yep.
Boom. Okay. So she goes, kind of meta when people discuss the quote unquote no choice in relation to Pop HD. I mean, everyone's doing exactly as their rules require them to. There's only certain depth of any knowledge that can spread wide. The purpose of that is to spread wide. It will get diluted and it will get distorted. But there is definitely a need for purists to police that because it's only the friction that causes change and mutation and pulls attention to the true depth of human design. Also, there's nothing wrong with calling out those in the industry who exploit on purpose, simply out of ethics and professionalism. This is how it is in every profession. Calling
Mm.
people names just for doing that is just showing the world your own lack of sincerity to what puts food on your table. Simply put, it's unprofessional. Essentially, we go back to no choice. Everyone's perfect. Everyone's perfectly playing out the roles expected out of them. A community does not need to be light and love, encouragement only. You hit that perfect balance by playing out your role. People who study HD and limitations and friction should essentially see the comic beauty of these Insta mini dramas. I equally love all my friends on the spectrum of HD, the poppers and purists, and the in my own lane in betweeners. You are all perfect and perfectly messy as you are. P.S. Please run your pop theories by a few people before posting here to make sure that you're fundamentally right. You can't pop out random ass information out of nowhere that contradicts the very fundamentals and expect to not be roasted on a spit.
Exactly.
She's got a good point.
I feel like that's a good place to wrap up.
I think so too. And just also want to shout out to Kat. Her name is Kat Unfurled, who made a really
Yeah.
funny reel that was like, you know what? Something along the lines of last time everybody was talking about Pop HD, I had some things to say, and now I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Also holding space for her as she's like 41 weeks pregnant
Oh my
today.
gosh, poor thing.
Yeah.
So
So we're
let us
waiting on that
know.
birth chart.
Let us know what you guys think. We'll obviously post this on our Instagram announcing it. And if you guys want to start a chat in the comments section of the post, or on YouTube or DM us or whatever and give us your perspectives. Obviously, we're fourth lines. Here's the thing, fourth lines love something to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
We are reporting the news
Mm-hmm.
and giving our perspectives. And I'm grateful to have things to talk about. I love watching people interact, whether they agree or disagree. I love watching conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so intriguing to me. So, you know, at one point in my wave, I was like, I don't give a fuck about this. Like exactly how Kat felt. I'm like, and to be fair, I don't blame Kat for not giving a fuck. She's 41 weeks pregnant. Like, how do you have any capacity to care about this type of shit? But I came around to, this was something Cody had said too. You know, it's also okay to care. It's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to want to
Mm-hmm.
share your opinion. I think sometimes people feel shamed with how much they do care about something
Yeah.
that's seemingly small, especially when there's horrific things going on in the out in the world, you know, and it's like this seems so small, but at the same time in our space, this is kind of a big deal. And we're here to talk about it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Because I can see how helpful Pop HD can be for people, but in here, in me as me, I'm a source junkie,
yeah. And that's okay. And it's also
and that's
okay if
okay.
you're a pop junkie and that's what you love. And it's also
Absolutely.
okay if you just think everybody's entitled to their perspective and nobody should be policed. It's okay if you think they should be policed. You get the point.
As long
We're just
as
saying it's
you're
all gravy,
loving,
baby.
as long as you're loving yourself along the way, that's all that fucking matters.
It's
Don't let
all
anything pull
gravy,
you from loving your own self.
you know, and I try to have as much compassion for others as possible. And I can't help it. I can't help kind of trying to see this from all perspectives. I'm a Gemini sun in tropical astrology, and I feel like I'm really able to hold two perspectives at once about something. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if I
And I
sound
don't know.
contradicting, it's because I am.
I don't know much about astrology, but I do know that I have an undefined ajna and head, and I'm a Gemini moon. So I don't know. I
Boom.
probably can hold two
You can.
perspectives.
You can.
Okay.
You definitely can. All right. Well,
Awesome.
thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.
All right. Bye.